Hi, welcome to Geek Talk. My name is Johnathan Chestnut, and we're on the campus of Fayetteville State University. And I'm here with Josh Soltren, and you are?
Johnathan Clouser.
Johnathan Clouser, new guy. What's up? Welcome to Geek Talk. What happened, guys? Have we seen anything good this week?
I'm looking forward to that new Thor, though.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about Thor last time. I'm interested in it. I like where they're going with the comedy aspect of it.
Yeah, I really like that, and I think that at this point we've seen the Hulk pretty much smash everything. I think we're looking for that Hulk that thinks a little bit more, because you see the development of him making full sentences and actually getting in a conversation.
I'm not. I mean, there's never an instance where I don't want the Hulk to be smashing.
Well,
something.
yeah.
I'm all for the smashing of the scenario. If it was Wolverine, I'd be even happier. If he was just like pounded on Wolverine. What do you think?
I mean, I think this movie, like we talked about last week, how it's gonna be well, that was a couple of weeks ago, but I think the movie's gonna be more focused on Thor and Loki, I think, and then they're like they're still brothers, they still kind of love each other, but they're still enemies. And
like
then,
a buddy cop movie.
yeah, and then Hulk, like I already told you, it's gonna be like Hulk and Thor, like on a space adventure or something. So I think they're gonna be going maybe to different planets. Still don't know yet, but I'm just looking forward to it.
I think it's gonna be a blast all the way around. What about the Justice League? You seen the previews on that?
I've seen the previews on that. I feel like, I mean, I'm super excited for a Justice League movie, but I think they should have done it sort of like the Avengers, where they have the standalone movies first and kind of development, and then have them. It just seems kind of like we're throwing this out now.
What do you think?
I mean, I'm glad they're throwing it out there, because Marvel has been in the game for years, since like 2008 with this franchise. I think the first one was Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. So they've got a way head start on the DC movies. So I think.
Well, I mean, you could really talk Christopher Reeve and all that. I mean, you could put DC back to like.
Yeah, but I mean, in the sort of, you could say the universe, the Marvel universe, and then the DCEU. DC didn't establish their universe until Man of Steel and The Dark Knight, and even though Dark Knight wasn't really part of the DCU. So.
Yeah, but I mean, the way they're kind of segueing, they're structuring it, they could actually say Dark Knight was, because, with old Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm interested in it, and I think it's fine them throwing it out, getting it out there. Not really much for the same reason. The Justice League is a much more, how can I say, mature kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Avengers are like, campy, they crack jokes and stuff like that. And, the Justice League is, I know Flash is going to be funny, and I kid because he looks like the Flash. The Flash is going to be funny. Cyborg's got a lot of great lines.
Right.
And from what I've seen from the previews and the interviews, Aquaman is going to be hilarious. He's going to be, I have a feeling that's going to be the takeaway from the whole thing.
Let's talk about Aquaman, because I think, I mean, if you know about the comics and stuff, you know how cool Aquaman is after they developed more and added some new stuff. But a lot of people see Aquaman as, I'm the guy in like the, orange shirt? And yeah, I talk the fish, pretty much. But I think they're going to get to see the hardcore Aquaman that a lot of DC fans know about.
Well, the problem is when you start thinking about Aquaman in and of himself, Aquaman really never had a solid origin until the 60s. There was this thing where the way they're doing it now is closer to the 60s version, where the ocean mother, the woman comes out, gets discovered by the lighthouse guy, and they fall in love and they have a kid, and then the kid finds out he can breathe underwater or something. Aquaman's always been one of those joke characters, and that goes back to the Super Friends.
Right.
Back in the day when, I'll stop the meteorite, you figure out how to stop the riddle, and you go talk to fish. So there's always been that kind of blow Aquaman off, but Aquaman is physically as in the same strength range as Wonder Woman. He's got, and now they've kind of amped him up because he's got the trident of Poseidon.
Yeah.
So he's got some magic oomph behind him, and then he can withstand a lot of pressure. He can he could take gunshots. He could take all kinds of damage. I mean, they showed in the clips. He falls through the top of the building. He just kind of slides out the front. He's like, ha ha! I'm like, okay, that's gonna be cool, Aquaman.
From what I read, he can actually I don't know how he does it. Take all the water out of someone's body and just dehydrate them.
That's with the trident.
With the trident.
Yeah. Now his wife Mira, and she's gonna be in the movie. She can actually control and redirect water. If you think Avatar,
they call it like aquakinesis or something like that.
It's like aquakinesis. Yeah, she can. And they did the Young Justice, which you've got on here about them coming back. The Aqualad from Young Justice, he does the water kinesis too, because you find out that he's actually Mira's nephew, because Mira's sister hooked up with Black Man. It's a long story, but needless to say, the water kinesis thing is more a Mira kind of thing, and he can do it with the trident, because the trident allows him to command the 7 seas. So, but yeah, we want to pick on Aquaman anymore? I'm good with that. I like Aquaman. What about Cyborg?
Does he say booyah in the movie?
Oh God, I hope he does. That was cool. I think he does when he lands on the Batmobile, because he was doing an interview and he said the best part of shooting anything was when he got to land on the Batmobile and he's car surfing the Batmobile. I'm like, that would be a cool gig. What do you think?
I don't know. I think I was reading that some people don't like the way he looks. I imagine him to be a little bit bulkier. Maybe in the upcoming movies he will become a bit bulkier, like with his armor and stuff.
You look at him in the Teen Titans, the King. I can't say it. The Teen Titans, the series, the good one, where he's huge. I mean, who is that big to fill that role and also be able to act it too?
Well, now I like Jason. I mean, the guy that played him, I can't remember his last name. It's something starts with M, and he's Hawaiian. I like the fact that he has a much. When they looked at casting the Justice League, it was a very, very reasonable, multicultural kind of thing. And then when I started thinking about it, because in the interview I watched, he talked about when he got the call and they said they wanted to offer him the role of Aquaman. He had to stop and think about it. He was like, "Oh, do I really want to be Aquaman?" I mean, Aquaman's orange shirt dude. But man, when you look at him, he's got the tattoos and the armor, and I don't know. I think he's gonna rock it. I think he's gonna be the Wonder Woman of Batman versus Superman. When we see that thing, and he gets the water coming up behind him, we'll see. And again, from what I hear, the Flash is gonna steal everything. And Cyborg.
I mean, he still looks like he's going to be a great part. I think every character, the Avengers, there were the 3 characters, maybe Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, and Cap. 4 that were
So that's 4.
Yeah, that's 4, but they're the stars. And then Black Widow, and then Black Widow and Hawkeye were they got their little plots, but they really didn't steal the show like those characters did. But I think in Justice League, every single member is going to have a chance to steal the show.
Yeah, I really think so. I like the way Cyborg looks. He's kind of, he's Iron Man times 10, because he's drawing information. He has a mother box, so he can boom tube and do all these things. If they follow that premise,
right?
And that will, that's what will really push that character over. I like you brought up the Avengers. I always think about that scene where they circle around and you see the Hulk and he's all this giant, and Thor standing there with his magic hammer. He can do all this. Cap, super soldier, shield, and then you look at it and there's Black Widow and she goes, and it's she got a gun. You brought a gun to a super villain fight. Okay, I'm all for it. So I'm hoping they do something with her. They've talked about doing a standalone movie with Black Widow, and that might be interesting because then that would allow character development.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got here? The Gifted. Oh, okay.
I don't know much about that series, but I'm interested because it has a guy that was on True Blood. I think his name is Stephen Meyer or something like that. He played, I forget, Bill Compton.
Bill Compton, yeah.
And is that a Marvel show? I know it's characters with superpowers in there.
It's part of the X universe. It's part of, what is it? Is it Fox that has it?
Yeah, Fox has the rights to X-Men.
Yeah, Fox has the right to X-Men. And so they're spinning off all these shows based off of their license to use the X-Men world. So The Gifted basically is a show. These two kids manifest mutant powers. Their father is a prosecutor, basically. He's a mutant prosecutor in a world where mutants are feared and hated. Because the concept for the X-Men, and they've kind of washed it down over the years with the movies and stuff. The concept with the X-Men has always been, it goes back to the civil rights movement.
Right.
Charles Xavier is Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
I got a dream. We can all get along. We can work together. And Magneto's Malcolm X. We should be in charge. Time to fight back. We need to quit being the victims. And the X-Men movies, they kind of played at that a little bit, but they never really dug into it. I mean, I guess in some ways they did. Like with Magneto and the concentration camps, but that's just making a direct parallel between the persecution of the Jews and
Well, it's interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's interesting that you should mention that, because at first I thought it would be really hard for people to see these superpowered characters and be able to understand that they're vulnerable and feel their pain. But going back to using True Blood, an example, when there was a disease called Hep V or Hep D or something like that, everyone was dying, and then Bill, he's in there in the hospital room, in the waiting room, and all these people around him, and one kid says, "Mom, I'm hungry," which means he needs blood, but it doesn't matter, he's going to die anyway. So I was looking at stuff like that, and they could take X-Men and actually go a more serious tone, which I think is what they're doing with The Gifted.
Oh, it is much more serious. I mean, you're basically looking at a persecution police state. I mean, it's like, you think about what it means to be an African-American in America today, where you're, concerned about your safety when a cop gets behind you and stuff like that. Imagine if you're a cop and you're walking up to a car and you don't know, the person could look absolutely normal, but then they could shoot lightning out of their eyes.
Right.
And so it changes the relationship. So it's sort of an interesting kind of premise about persecution. And then when they show the mutants and the Gifted, the ones that are at like the sanctuary, you can see where they talk about mutants that can't hide their presence.
Right.
When their mutation kicks in, Blink is one of the main characters. She's always been one of my favorites. But she has, in the comics, she has purple, sort of light purple skin and purple eyes and like this red cross thing across her eyes. But she can't stop it. It doesn't turn off. And so she walks in a room and people go, "Oh, mutant." And they've showed several in the jail and a couple places like that where it's, they're like.
There's the one dude that has like the mark on his face. It's like a metal, like bullseye or whatever. And then there's the one that was in the jail with, I forgot her name.
Well, that's Polaris.
Polaris.
That's Doran. In the comics, you find out later she's the daughter of Magneto, but they haven't really stated that. But Polaris is interesting because she has actually green hair, and it's a byproduct of her mutant powers. And so when they show her in the when she first goes to jail, she's dyed her hair black.
Right.
So that because that's like the one thing that was sort of her tell. And so when she gets in the shower, you see it start to come out, and suddenly the green hair is there. And so, but that's where they get into how people feel about the mutants, because it's like, so you're trying to pass yourself off. And so you can think about Charles Chestnut, the guy that wrote the guy that was one of the first founders of Fayetteville State. He wrote a book called Wife from a Former Life. And basically it's about an African-American slave after the war who was so light-skinned he could pass for white. And he goes out west. And in the book, basically, he gets confronted by his wife that he lost during this, when he escaped from the South. She shows up, and she's loyal, but she's very African-American in appearance, or African in appearance at that point, I guess. And, it's about passing oneself off others. So when I saw that, that was kind of the correlation I got. It's like interesting in how these, these topics can be related to over 100 years worth of comparison. All right. But you like The Gifted, right?
Yeah.
I
I'm
like
enjoying it.
I like the girl that is the sort of main young mutant, because she had come from Gotham, and then she had come from the Goldbergs, and so she sort of, I've been watching her grow up over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I mean the show, I see it can move in a lot of different directions. Like after watching Gotham, The Flash, like different types of superhero shows, this one I can see going in like just a whole bunch of different directions. Like maybe season 2, maybe some of the mutants there become bad, like Polaris and the brother. I think those are the two that are most on the edge of the group. Like that they have, even though the boy, he used the word like the mutie or whatever, like talking about mutants, but then he's all in now with the mutants and saying it's us and them and all that. So I think it might be him and Polaris and maybe others that might join them and the group might separate. I mean, that's what I'm thinking might happen.
I mean, it could go, I mean, if it is given the same kind of intensity, it could go with the same fervor as The Walking Dead. I mean, you could have these like multiple fractions, and they talk about the groups. One of the things they mentioned I thought was really interesting is they mentioned the Liberators, and or the Liberation Front, because in the comics, they talk about the X-Men in the show, and then they talk about the Brotherhood, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then they said the Liberation Front. I was like, oh wow, that was an obscure reference in the '80s. They brought back. They really started pushing the whole fighting for equal rights, fighting for personal safety kind of thing, and the Liberation Front showed up, and they had costumes that were derivative of the original X-Men. So I thought it was interesting, just kind of went that direction. And you're right. I think if it goes with the intensity that it could be amazing. All right, and so we'll run through these. The Flash, a couple episodes in. You're gonna have to play catch up. You've been watching.
I've seen bits and pieces.
We need more commitment, man.
It's pretty good though.
I have liked what I've seen. I kind of like the Geek character that's always helping out with like Cisco, yeah.
He's actually based on a character called Vibe, and he's sort of over time he's become Vibe, and he can open dimensional portals, which he couldn't do in the comics. He could just make things shake for a while.
I immediately thought of Forge when I seen him from the X-Men.
That's a nice obscure reference. You don't really see. Forge is not a reference you get often.
I still don't fully understand his powers.
Hyperinvention.
Yeah.
He basically, you say, oh, I have a problem, and he says, oh, here is B answer, and he makes it, but he doesn't necessarily know how it works.
Yeah.
So it just kind of
an innate affinity for like technology.
Yeah, and so he built the neutralizer that took away Storm's powers. It was originally designed to take away Rogue's powers. And that's why there was never any more of them, because once he saw what it was used for, they were like, well, we need more of those. He went, nah. And so they tried to figure out how it worked, and it was like none of the technology made sense, because he used his mutant ability allowed it to operate. And he was just like, nope, not doing it. Sorry. So there was the one neutralizer, and they kept it around for a little while. And you're a big Flash fan, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bigger Gotham fan than Flash.
Well, we're getting to Gotham. I'm finally caught up on Gotham, I'm still thinking he's going to be Talon, though.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like, because I know Ra's al Ghul is probably going to come back somehow, but he just killed Ra's al Ghul. So, and that's like, I don't think that happened in any of the comics in any cases. So, I mean, that's even furthering the point that you're saying that he may not even become Batman.
Yeah.
So,
in Gotham, the show is basically Gotham telling of a young Batman kind of thing. And
yes. With fan service. with fan service and a bunch of characters like placed in there.
Well, yeah, but it's a lot of,
it's improved a lot from season 1.
Yeah, it's improved a great deal.
Like season 1 was good. Like there was like the little bits they would show, like, oh yeah, that's Riddler and all this. And you'd think they wouldn't touch up on it anymore, but then you just keep basing up more and more on it, and they become core characters. That's why it's like one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. The most recent was Solomon Grundy.
Yeah, that was
the guy.
Really good.
As soon as they said, "Oh, his real name is Cyrus Gold," I was like, "Oh man, he's gonna be Solomon Grundy." And they dumped him in the swamp, and I went, "Yep, he's Solomon Grundy."
And they did that pretty quickly, though. I didn't think they were gonna touch up on that until a while, like making him Grundy. I thought they were probably gonna leave it to like the next half of the season, but they brought it in real quick, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, he kind of woke up immediately. You're right. I didn't even think about it. It could have lingered out for a little while. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But
like you kind of forgot about him, and then he just shows up. But the one thing I didn't like was Barbara. Like they brought her really fast, brought her back fast, and I didn't like her as a character personally. So.
Yeah, and see, and Barbara's one of the ones that makes it so that I can kind of see they would end up being not Batman. Because Barbara, yeah, obviously, at some point, Commissioner Gordon's supposed to marry Barbara, and
yeah, that's what I noticed too. Like at this end, by this end, there's no way they're gonna get married.
yeah,
So
she's way too damaged at this point. Okay, Gotham Legends of Tomorrow.
I haven't watched it.
Well, I watch it. I'm not really in love with it. It's okay. You haven't seen that one yet?
I haven't even
You
heard
have to
of
watch
Legends.
them. If you're gonna be up here with me, man, you better catch up here. You want the list? Now, Legends of Tomorrow. It's kind of an interesting show, but they're talking about. I've heard rumor that Kid Flash from the Flash.
Yeah, I
might
heard
be
something about
joining
that.
The Legends, and so. All right.
I think we should start talking about Dark Knight's metal. I think that's really important.
The comics.
Yeah.
All right.
The what's his name? There was the Green Lantern, and then there was the one that just came out now, the Aquaman one, right?
Oh yeah, that's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That one
I think
was really
it's
interesting.
Mira as Batman, Batwoman.
Yeah, it was Batwoman, but it wasn't Mira. It was actually the Batwoman. She went to go fight Mira and Aquaman.
Selena Kyle.
It was like kind of switched. There was a Kyle that was like her fiance or something, and she was a Wayne.
Oh, okay.
Like they kind of switched the gender roles, but.
That's okay. They do that sometimes.
But it was like she somehow manifested a power to control the sea, but it was like kind of like how Mira has it, but stronger than Mira. And I forgot how they explained it.
She's got the trident, right? Like,
I think she got something. She like enhanced herself with a bunch of technology so she could control the oceans, because it was like the metahumans like all got destroyed or something, and then she like got angry and then she just like destroyed the world. Like in every of these Dark Knight medals, it's the Batman destroying pretty much their world. So I think in this case she went to Atlantis and she just like destroyed it, and she lured people to Atlantis to turn them into her followers, and then like she just took over the world and then destroyed it.
Reader's Digest, because I know you're sitting there going, what are they talking about? The Reader's Digest, basically, there's a new series called DC Dark Metal, and it's basically multiverse.
Hey, finish it up, please.
Okay. The Dark Metal universe is a dark universe, and so all the Batman characters, it's sort of every dark version, and so the multiverse is divided into two, light multiverse and dark. And so this is all the dark, and in every world, the Batman character. And so what's happened is some Batman character has gathered them all up and is basically bringing them over and attacking the light universe. And they're kind of building towards that. And so it's a lot of standalone stories about these bad people, and then they're coming together. All right. So that's it for us today. We've got a lot of other geek stuff. It's a geeky world. We're glad to have you. Thank my guys for joining me. And until next time, be a nerd. I'm going to throw it the right way this time. Last time I threw it the wrong way.